So I reread the Colonies in early phase 1 of the Culling games, and I gotta say, JJK is definitely one of those series where on the reread it just hits a little different because everything flows really well in terms of the chapters. Now I'm gonna be ranking them based on my enjoyment, and the way it's gonna be ranked is we're gonna rank them based on POV. So Yuji and Megumi, since they're in the same colony, I'd rather just separate them and go from Yuji to Megumi and so on and so forth. And this ranking definitely has changed over time on the reread, but I'm not gonna waste any more time. Let's do this ranking. At number 5, I have the Sakurajima colony Maki's POV. This is overall on a reread specifically, when everything flows together, this is really simple and probably the fastest colony to read because 1, it's a lot of action, and 2, it's not really that much dialogue heavy or extra dialogue to explain things. I think I finished reading like all of this within maybe 25 minutes. Like, it's that fast. So that was honestly one of the benefits of rereading this. Maki and Noritoshi as kind of like the main ones we're focusing on or following was really good, and I liked how they both paralleled each other, being the exalted ones from their clans, and how their mental states were a little bit different, even though they both kind of went through similar things. I was really vibing with that. And obviously Noritoshi and everything going on with his family and him eventually just wanting to go back to his mother, have that conversation and everything, really heartwarming. It's something you want to see him accomplish. Also, I enjoy his fight with Naoya because I really love blood manipulation. It's one of my favorite techniques, and seeing him use it a little bit different from Choso was really refreshing because it's been a minute since we've seen the blood manipulation technique. Also, the burning my ashes line, that's such a banger quote from Noritoshi, and I think Gege did a really good job at using him in this colony. And of course, Maki, we've had the perfect preparation where Maki was kind of like the main character for an arc, and with this portion of the Culling games, felt like the same thing. Really loved her kind of taking over the story for this given point, and she brought a whole different dynamic than really much everybody else because she was going through something that we kind of had a glimpse of, and this is kind of like us getting that confirmation of where she was at mentally and her overcoming that, and the physical boost that she got with the heavily restriction. She's pretty much a counter to domain expansions now, with the exception of someone who can expand it and use it on structures and buildings. So seeing her get her development not only mentally, emotionally, but also in power was really enjoyable to read. I really like Daido and Mio because out of all the people we've had, Takaba also brought a charm, but these two brought more so of a veteran vibe to this, where they were going against Naoya because obviously they're reincarnated. And I really liked them because they came in and they're very abrupt, so you didn't really know what exactly they were going to bring to this kind of arc at this point. So we're just thinking they're random players. A lot of us thought they were going to be fodder, especially me, but I really enjoyed them. Daido is a badass. The absolute lethality line, that goes crazy. And then Mio, his simple domain of sumo wrestling, and sumo wrestle him until you beat him, and then that's how Maki kind of overcame her mental barriers, and basically you only focus on sumo wrestling him. I don't know if we're gonna see that again, but I really like that, and it was a very quick and simple way of showing what Mio could do, and also improving and Maki's process of getting over her emotional barrier without it feeling kind of out of place or feeling like it was just hot shotted in. It still flowed really well. So overall, this colony I'm putting at 5, and if I had to rate these, which I'm gonna do, I'd give this a solid 8 out of 10. Overall, I think it was a really solid and straight to the point colony. Now, number 4, we got our boy Yuji with Tokyo Colony number 1. First off, Yuji, one of my favorite protagonists to just follow along with because badass fighter. I love because Yuji's hand-to-hand combat is a little bit different because he's very acrobatic, and he just brings like a kind of just hype level, even though he's not doing anything like overtly like crazy. Sometimes it'll be like when he fought the propeller dude, I think I want to say he did like a split when they were in a close area, and then he knocked him back. Like little stuff like that make Yuji stand out when it comes to all the close combat fighters. But Yuji versus I'm gonna just call him Yuji versus the 3 bozos, and Amai, the propeller dude, and the hair jetpack chick. Even though he didn't fight Amai, I'm just gonna lump him in there. That was kind of just a showcase of Yuji because it's been a minute since we saw my boy fight. Still, it's been a minute since we've seen Yuji in action, but overall, I love Yuji just fighting style, and he brings a joyfulness that a lot of other characters kind of just don't have. So we're just gonna put him at 4. Higuruma, of course. Honestly, if I have to rank him out of my favorites, probably like 1 or 2 in terms of the new ones we've got in the Culling games. I love Higuruma, his backstory, everything about him and the law, and giving people a chance, even though realistically they're not going to be a non-guilty person or whatever. I think all of that really well thought out and written by Gege. Rarely do we have a character in JJK where a character is kind of fleshed out within maybe like a chapter or 2, which is rare, because normally we'll get something here and then we'll double back and then we'll finish it later when it all kind of ties together. But Higuruma, we pretty much wrapped up almost his entire character with maybe like one more thing in about 7 chapters when it comes to all his appearances. Higuruma's domain, fire, the non-lethal domains, in my opinion, are just growing me every time I read them. I just love the rule aspect to them. Death penalty, and he gets the executioner's sword, really nice. Overall, Yuji and Higuruma's fight was really entertaining when they were fighting, but this was probably the most different out of all of the fights, because this one really wasn't about someone being stronger than the other. It was really kind of about Higuruma's ideals with himself and kind of the world versus Yuji's problems just in general and everything he's going through with Sukuna and Shibuya, and they kind of just both go together pretty well. So that's really what this was about. This is probably the one fight and the only fight where it really wasn't about power, but I still like this fight, and one of the more, in terms of just story and narrative, really well thought out, and everything just ties together real quick. I know we're gonna see him probably later on in the Culling games, but Tokyo Colony #1 was probably the best thing to start out with, and I'm gonna put this at 4. Rating, I give it like an 8.5 out of 10. I love the characterization within Yuji and Higuruma in this. For 3, easily the most slept on Colony. I don't know why, and it might be because of the antagonist, but definitely Megumi's POV with Colony #1. This was really fun to read because we got a lot. This was another kind of similar to Maki. Very simple, because mainly it was Megumi character development and characterization even further from what he's grown from Shibuya, and even beyond that when it comes to self-sacrificing himself. He takes this one and he improves on it, because he first did it in the Origin of Obedience arc where he launches his domain for the first time, nearly loses, but still, you know, he had the idea with the dog. This one even better, because he uses literally the entire building for his domain, and just the strategies in the Megumi and Reggie fight was just fantastic. Fire all around. And Reggie, even though his outfit is stupid as hell, his technique was actually really fun, because I mean, you could do anything with the receipts. I mean, he even healed himself with it, with the bath, and then he's launching little pots with knives, hitting at him with the doubles. And maybe it's just me, but that was really cool. It wasn't the most he can destroy this and that with it, but it was just like a very strategy based technique going up against Megumi, who's probably the smartest person in the series in terms of who we have in our current cast. Well, I should say in the schools and the students. But I mean, like, this was really good. And then Takaba and him being just pretty much the comedy guy, but then he ends up having a semi-broken technique that anything that's funny to him becomes reality, and it even works against someone like Gojo. Everybody was like, oh, this guy is going to be a problem, because he literally took no damage from Hazunoki's explosion, which, by the way, I'm a fan of Hazunoki's technique, because he's another character like those side characters that's like, man, they have a really fire technique. I just wish I cared about his character just a little bit more, but like the way he was throwing his body and then he was healing himself, that was raw. That was really raw. And then there was Remy. Even though I ain't gonna lie, Remy was just good to look at, not really much to write home about. I don't know what's left for her character right now, but just in this little part, she was okay. But then yeah, I like to call it killer mentality Megumi. This man, when he launched the domain and you see how crazy his face is, and then when he throws the elephant down, just that was insanity. And then the way he beats him with using the water in the pool, chokes him out, kind of like distracts him with the sword fight so the dog will take him out. Really good. And then we even get more of a explanation on Megumi, kind of like well, for now, the disadvantage of his domain being he takes on the weight of whatever's in his shadows. That adds another layer to it, and foreshadowing. He ain't gonna have a barrier domain because he's gonna be a little bit like Sukuna. But this was really fun. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. I just rank it third because the other two, come on now, they're just built different. Now, second, I'm going with Tokyo Colony number 2. Now, just to let you know off the rip, this is by far my favorite fight in the entire Culling games right now. But I'm ranking everything in the colony, and this was definitely number 2. Obviously, Hikari Kenji point of view, I'm a big Hikari guy. The stocks are unlimited with him right now in terms of my favorites, but obviously he was really fun, dope, brings a whole different charismatic just feel to, I guess, Jujutsu Kaisen as a series. Obviously I'm a fan of delinquent characters, so he's got that going for him. We got Charles' introduction, which Charles was okay, not much to still, kind of similar to Remy, not much to write home about, but I did like the G War stuff, even though you can only see 1 second. So he was, honestly, Charles really was not much to write. He was kind of bad, I'm not gonna lie. Not badly written, but he sucked in terms of how he was as a fighter. Hikari's domain reveal, it was controversial at first because everybody just didn't feel like reading it and understanding it, but like after a while, everybody, from what I've seen, they love the domain, and I'm in that crew as well. I always thought it was interesting. It took me a minute to understand it because I like to put things in simple terms for myself so that way I can remember when I double back at it. But his domain is one of my favorites in the series, and when we got the jackpot Hikari, we all knew he is not anybody to laugh about. Yuta was not playing when he said when he's on a roll he could potentially be stronger than him. Yeah, Hikari is definitely built different. Kashimo introduction, I knew when I saw that, as soon as he saw that Panda was a player and within a fraction of a second was in Panda's face with a fist getting ready to punch him, I knew, oh yeah, it's a wrap for Panda. And Kashimo as a character overall kind of being the, I guess, main antagonist in terms of strength. He was the goal post of, okay, this is definitely the bar of how strong, these reincarnated sorcerers could be. And his curse technique, part of me wishes it wasn't only for Sukuna, because I really would have liked to see like another move he could pull out, but for the story's sake, it makes sense that he would only want to fight Sukuna with a curse technique that's specifically for Sukuna. It was because he was still really powerful with his curse energy alone, which kind of makes him broken because his curse energy being a direct hit with his lightning and guaranteed no matter what is really, really crazy. Also, I want to touch on Panda's like inner dialogue with himself in his other chords was really, really sad, especially on the reread. But I'm glad my boy's alive. But I really am interested to see where Panda goes from here in terms of what happened with all of that, like what's up with his body. But obviously, we all know Hikari versus Kashimo. Amazing fight from the start to the finish. In terms of a fight that was pretty much about endurance, because neither of them was really going to take each other out. Hikari couldn't because he needed the points, and Kashimo couldn't because Hikari's jackpot version of himself is just broken. And I can't wait to see this animated the most because the water scenes, I'm really interested to see how they depict that and animate that all together. So I feel like everybody's reread this fight a ton of times, and easily number 2. The reason this isn't number 1 for me is because Charles wasn't really all that cool. And then I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish there was another character, that we can introduce in there. But this was definitely 9.5 out of 10. I don't know who dislikes this, but this was in a way peak hand-to-hand jujutsu source, whatever you want to call it. This was just peak. And number 1 is Sendai Colony with Yuta's point of view. And on the reread, this went from 2 to 1 because I forget how chaotic this was. This arc this was more so about characterization and just how strong these sorcerers can get, because Yuta beats Kurorushi. Well, he beats Drought first, but he beats Kurorushi, Kurorushi was actually one of the more, he brought like that horror aspect of Jujutsu Kaisen brought in at the beginning, and we kind of went away with from because the cursed spirits kind of bring that scary factor. But Kurorushi definitely I liked, especially when he had the swarm and he's eating the guy and then the bugs are destroying him and all that. I kind of missed something like that. And then of course the epic triple threat of Ryu, Uro, and then Yuta. Ryu's a dog. That's one of my favorite characters. Man, he was pretty much a offensive juggernaut, and then Uro was she could counter everybody. I mean, you can't really hit her. She'll use the sky. Can't really send a blast because she'll redirect it. So she was incredibly strong in terms of versatility defensively, and then she was actually really good in hand-to-hand combat because she could also mess up your arm and kind of make it like really flaccid or whatever. But in epic battle, nonetheless, whole bunch of chaos. We got to see Yuta use his Kabi technique with multiple techniques, and then you get some of the lore with Uro and how she feel about the Fujiwaras, and then you get Ryu, who basically just was like, I haven't had anybody that could test me in my entire life, and this kid is the only one who's been able to do it, and I know he's stronger than me. Me and him need to get this smoke. I gotta fight him. And they do. And the way the climax or the ending sequence was really fire, using Uro's technique, which Yuta needed, and then flipped it, reversed it, and then bodied Ryu, which was to me the most important thing about Ryu, and showed how strong he was. All of the significant damage he took was from his own blast. And then the triple domain, I really wish we kind of got to see one of them overlap, but I feel like it should have been obvious that it wasn't going to happen. Even if Kudarushi broke through, it wasn't going to work. But the panel of the triple domain is beautiful. And yeah, easy 10 out of 10. Just one of the most action-packed couple of chapters in JJK. And also, the people that said Yuta 1v4'd as if they all teamed up against them, I don't know why y'all say that, because literally Uro and Ryu went at it a couple of times, and then Kudarushi attacked all of them. So yes, Yuta took them down as a collective, but not one by one. But either way, it was still really fire. My top 5 ranking of the Colonies. Let me know in the comment section, where do you rank your favorites. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of Jujutsu Kaisen content, and I'll let y'all in the next one.